Hey, what's up? My name's Dan and I play in a band called Waxflower. I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
Dan, what's up, dude? Like, I recently got introduced to your band, and Waxflower is pretty sick, and I'm excited that you guys are barely going to drop the debut EP because that means I didn't miss much yet. So,
Yeah, you've come on at the right time.
yeah, seriously. So, talk to me a little bit about like just that creative process between the four of you guys when you guys come together and kind of create music.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're so lucky that, being in this band is like the four of us are the closest of friends. So I think like that creative process is so natural and so organic. Tristan is like definitely the creative genius, if you will, in the band. And he's a singer, he's the songwriter, and he's the one who's really putting together all the melodies and the chords and the lyrics. So he'll pretty much come to us with a song and go, hey, here's this song that I've written. And during the writing process, especially for this EP, it was every week or every couple of weeks, he'd bring us a new demo and we'd talk about it and maybe discuss, if we had any changes, particularly in our parts. And that's another thing about Tristan is he's multi-instrumentalist. He plays guitar, he plays bass, he plays drums. So we're super lucky that he brings us like a fully fledged demo and we kind of just go, yep, we like that, or no, let's change that up. So that's kind of the process before we hit the studio. And then with this EP, we recorded with an awesome Australian producer called Stevie Knight. So he's done some stuff with like Stan Atlantic, Between You and Me, a band who's pretty big over here as well called Short Stack. So he's done a bunch of stuff with them. Awesome guy, awesome producer. And we hit the studio with him, and then he'll kind of add his own polish and his own songwriting kind of mark on it as well. So it goes through a couple of iterations before we kind of get to the final now. But again, it feels so organic, and even with Stevie, he's almost like another member of the band when you're there because we're so comfortable with him, and it's all about just getting the best song that we can get. So yeah, it's a super organic, comfortable process, which is super, super cool, and I think makes for songs that we really enjoy.
That's pretty cool that you said that about him, that he seems like a part of the band, because Bonnie from Stan Atlantic told me the same thing before, where like every time, whenever they work with Stevie, it just feels like he's literally a member of the band instead of like going in to work with a different producer. So how did you guys first kind of connect with Stevie? And, as you guys are working towards this EP and making this each song, like how does he kind of challenge you guys individually?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've known Stevie for probably maybe coming up 6 or 7 years now. We've played in other bands together. He's also in a sick Australian punk rock band called the Dead Love. So I'd gigged with him before in another band. And I think we kind of just knew each other through the internet. You know how you follow other people kind of in your area on Instagram, and you'll have a chat every now and again, especially in Australia, the whole kind of punk rock, emo, pop punk scene. And it's so small, it's maybe 10 or 15 bands. So everyone kind of knows everyone then. And Stevie was definitely the guy in Australia, Between You and Me and Stan Atlantic, obviously put out amazing records that were done by him. And I think that really cemented him on the map as, the guy that everyone wanted to work with. So yeah, I mean, in terms of working with him in the studio, from a musical level on my end as a drummer, he pushes me every single take, every single song. It's can we make this part better? How can we make this part better? And he brings that expertise and that passion. He's so passionate, which is something, you get in there and obviously going to record an EP, you're a bit nervous. You obviously are super attached to these songs and you only have a certain amount of time to get everything done. But I feel at least that he puts you at ease straight away. And the 2 or 3 days that I'm tracking drums, it's just about taking everything from where it was at the demo to that whole next level. It's awesome, and it means you get the mixes back and you get the masters back, and it's something that you can be super proud of. Which is, I think that's why we've kept going back to him, because it's the product is there and we're super proud of the songs.
How has it been for Tristan, like being that he's talking about serious matters, serious topics in his music? So getting vulnerable with now he's not new, but like getting vulnerable with a new producer for that first time, like What was that like for Tristan from your point of view? And, you know, how do you feel he's kind of evolved in that aspect as you guys are getting like finalizing this EP?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so from day one, Stevie was always kind of the number one guy that we wanted to work with. And when I brought it up with Tristan, I said, you know, I think this guy's ideal for the kind of stuff that we're doing, especially, you know, we wanted to come out of the gates with a couple of really strong and good singles that, you know, we really believed in. And, you know, for Tristan, I think it was a matter of this was a project that it was kind of all or nothing for him. And for the rest of the guys in the band as well, like, you know, full honesty, we've all been in bands before. And for us, this was Waxflower was us coming together with a vision to kind of achieve and connect in a way that none of our bands previously had. And so I think we really all sat down and said, let's just do everything. Let's throw everything at this that we can. Let's work with the best people. Let's push ourselves out of our comfort zones. And I definitely think for Tristan, it would have been a case of going far beyond his comfort zone, you know, working with a producer that he hadn't worked before, getting vulnerable in the studio. But I think, you know, from day one, that connection that you have with Stevie puts you at ease, and being able to just hang out with him and relax and chill. And it's not a high pressure environment. It's a very authentic, you know, considerate environment. And I think that really helps, you know, that's what he brings. And I think that's why artists keep going back to him, because it's not a case of it being a high pressure studio environment. He gets the best out of his artists through being able to connect with them, and then they feel comfortable being vulnerable there. So I definitely think it plays such a big part.
What was that process for these 5 tracks? And, you know, how did each track kind of differ from the last as you guys were recording and maybe even during the writing process?
Yeah, I think we went down with Stevie in 2018 and recorded kind of a first batch of songs, and they were the first 3 or 4 singles. Yeah, it was a long time, and we kind of hadn't recorded anything substantial since then. We kind of recorded those and then spent the next 12, 18 months releasing them as singles, and kind of with the aim of hoping to get a label on board. So when Rude Records came knocking after the 3rd single, it was kind of a no-brainer. We were super passionate about, you know, what they were doing with their artists, and they came to us with a bit of a vision for where they saw the band going. And they were just awesome, genuine people, you know, even though we're based over here in Australia and they're over in Italy, the connection and the communication that we have is daily. And you know, the key thing from them is they seem to really genuinely care about the band and the music first, and everything else is just helping that, you know, connect with fans and helping the band grow there. So with these songs, you know, we knew that we had the support of Rude, and we knew that we were locked in with Stevie. So it was very much, I think, the writing was almost a bit lower pressure because we kind of had those 2 pieces in place, but we knew that we wanted to really step it up. And we spent a number of days doing kind of pre-production. So we were kind of doing pre-production where it was, you know, Tristan would send us the songs and we'd send him some notes back. And I think we managed to kind of sneak in a couple of days when some of the restrictions eased at our place. So actually Tristan and I lived together as well, which really helped the process during lockdown, because we were able to have that, you know, almost daily communication about the songs. And, you know, it'd be 10 o'clock at night and he'd message me, go, hey man, like I lived downstairs, he lived upstairs. So he'd go, hey man, come upstairs, let me show you this song I've written. So it was really like handy being able to do that. And yeah, we had a couple of days of pre-production. I think we'd shortlisted it down to maybe 8 or 9 songs. So we had like a decent batch of songs to go from. And I think we sent them around to like, we work with an awesome booking team over in Australia called Select Music. So I sent it around to them, and I think we just sent it over to Stevie as well and kind of said, you know, what songs are we vibing from here? What are we thinking? And I think we maybe knocked a couple off that probably weren't at the level that we were trying to achieve. And then, you know, day one in the studio, we roll on that morning, load all our gear in, and the first thing we all do is sit in that control room and go through the demos with Stevie. You know, we pull them up in Pro Tools and we talk about, you know, what's good about this song, what don't we like, what do we want to change. And what's awesome about kind of doing that with Stevie as well is because we've got the session in a Pro Tools session, we can cut and change some bits. So if we need to, you know, he might go, or we might agree, you know, well, the intro here is too long. So we can cut a 15-second intro off that just on Pro Tools, and, you know, straight away we can hear if it makes a difference and how it sounds. So I think, we probably had 8 or 9 and then knew that we had to narrow it down to 5. So it was just the process of spending 2 hours and discussing it. And I think we had maybe 1 or 2 that we we kind of were still arguing about and trying to decide. You know, it's like it's your project, it's your baby, so it's hard to kind of knock one off when you have to. But I think in the end, the batch of songs that we ended up with are the perfect ones to represent who Waxflower are as a band, and you know, the messages that we want to communicate, and how we want to connect with, you know, the people that care about our music and our band, and hopefully, you know, have a bit of an impact on them through our music. I think that's a big goal for us.
As you guys are releasing material, I mean, the songs that are from the EP, you're about to release Food for Your Garden. And do you know exactly, like, since you were living with Tristan, do you know like what kickstarted the writing process for this song? And, you know, what was that writing process like for him throughout it?
Yeah, I know that for him, it was definitely a song about kind of being caught in your own in your own world, in your own kind of melancholy and angst, and kind of, it's a song, I think, where he'd been in a certain spot and he'd grown and matured from there, and it's almost looking back in retrospect about the person he had been, and the relationships he had fostered then and maybe seen fall to the wayside. And that's kind of where that Food for Your Garden reference becomes, you know, it's almost like these relationships helped you build to a certain point and helped you grow to a certain point, and now they're almost acting as fertilizer for you to grow beyond that. So I think it was kind of, that was the thought and the process behind the lyrics. And then, you know, musically, I know that it was definitely a song that he feels most passionate about on the EP, and I think we all in the band really believe in this song and think that it's, you know, it's a really unique perspective on you know, the end of a relationship, and friendships and things like that as well, which can often be done to death in music, I know. But we think it's like a really fresh take on that. And for Tristan as well, I think this is a song that he probably spent the most time on, just going through different iterations, you know, different forms of the chorus, different forms of the verse, the structuring. And I know that we had a fair bit of back and forth between us as a band, where he would, you know, bounce us a demo, and then, you know, 3 hours later go, actually, don't listen to that one, listen to this one instead. So there was definitely a lot of, you know, some songs, they come out in an hour, you know, and you knock it out and you go, that's the one. But this definitely wasn't the case. I don't think this was definitely one where we really had to kind of work at it and dig at it. But I think, you know, through that process, it's become a song that we're all really proud of. And we might think it's an awesome song, and people might go, nah, this is horrible. Or you know, there's been songs that we've put out that we go, look, I don't think it's our strongest. And people have really connected. Like, it's hard to separate yourself as a musician from the music and see it from a fan's perspective. So that's always, for me, that's always the most exciting part, is seeing how people connect with it.
So lastly, to close us off, like, what for you personally, like as a drummer, what do you feel has been the biggest challenge in the recording process, or even the writing process of this upcoming EP?
I think definitely, you know, it might be somewhat cliche, but kind of dealing with, you know, I think it was hard to see as a band. We had, especially coming off 2019, we kicked some awesome goals. We did a tour with Between You and Me. We played with The Main. We played with Stan Atlantic. We played with Simple Plan. We did some awesome shows. We signed on with Select, who are handling our bookings over here, and obviously signed with Rude. And so we were kind of felt like we were in a great position to you know, reach an overseas market, reach the US, reach Europe, reach the UK in 2020. And that was a big goal for all of us. You know, the bands that we've been in previously had done well over in Australia, but hadn't connected as much as we'd liked overseas. And I think for all of us, that was a big goal. So we really felt like we were in a position to achieve that. And then, you know, everything that happened with we kind of had to revisit, and we kind of had to go, well, you know, we physically can't be touring overseas for, you know, maybe 18, 24 months. So, you know, what is the driver? Why are we doing this band? And you know, why are we motivated to keep performing? You know, we want to connect with as wide an audience as we can. And so we had to really redirect our energy and look at, you know, why are we in this, and intrinsically, you know, what's the motivation internally for us. And for me as a drummer, you know, I think it was about creating. You know, I love drums. I love, you know, listening to drummers, different types of drummers. So it was about like just almost forcing myself to you know, to book a practice room and work on the parts and just go, I want to be the best drummer that I can be. And, you know, I want Stevie to push me as hard as we can, so that, you know, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years from now, I want to look back on this release and have it be something that I'm proud of. And I think, you know, that was super important for me and a super motivator. And you know, it was definitely hard. You know, we had to push ourselves to kind of reevaluate where the band was. But I think, you know, hopefully through that struggle, we've come out with something that we can all look back on in time and be super proud of. So I'd say, yeah, that was a big motivator.
That's quite the reality check, though. And I kind of felt the same way when all of this kind of started, just because, you know, as a music host or as a host in general, like there's always events and there's always people trying to interview at these events. But a lot of times it's for the wrong reasons. It's for the clout. So once this kind of happened, it made me realize like who's really real in this industry. And I'm sure like tons of bands felt the same way, where it's like, is this really what I want to do? Like, I feel like this was the biggest struggle for everyone.
Absolutely. I think, you know, the people who are in bands now and who are pushing through now through the end of the, hopefully, are the people who need to be creating. You know, it's not a oh, this is cool because, you know, we can get X amount of Instagram followers and we can have a cool, you know, sponsorship with XYZ brand. It's about, you know, you have a real internal need to create and be creative and, you know, connect with people over that creative art, whether it be, you know, acting or painting or whatever it is. You know, I think a lot of people in all creative industries have realized that it's going to be a really tough time, even for the next 5 to 10 years. So if you're in it, you know, you're in it because you need to, and you have that internal drive too, which I think is awesome. You know, I think that's just going to hopefully mean that more and more incredible art is going to be coming out across all mediums. And I think that's something to be excited about. You know, I think we've almost seen, not to get too I don't know, not to look too deeply into it, but, you know, 3 times of struggle is often when the best forms of art come out. So, you know, if that's anything to go by, hopefully the next few years are really exciting for music.
Yeah, that's true. More content.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely.
Well, dude, congratulations with the success of the band so far. And I'm definitely looking forward for, you know, everyone else to listen to the debut EP, We Might Be All Right, which drops on the 16th of April. And yeah, thanks again for taking the time, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Dude, thank you so much. Appreciate you having me on. It's been a blast.